I just watched this movie called In Time, and in this movie, it's basically the currency is people's time. So it's all written on everyone's arm in real time, and everyone can see how much that person has. So that's, I guess, their money. So some people have, 1 year left, and in 1 year they'll time out and they'll die. Others will have 10 years, 20 years, and then there's the rich, rich people that have 100 years to live, 1,000 years to live. And what you find out is basically throughout the movie, there's actually an absolute abundance of time that could be given to people and everyone could live fairly, but rather they deliberately have this wealth gap and they have this mindset that in order for them to thrive indefinitely, the poor people have to suffer and struggle and just try and survive for them to thrive. So it's a really interesting movie because it also shows inflation and taxes in a world where time is currency, which is very similar to what we're living in now. I think time is currency. So we trade our time and energy to get money, and then we spend that money. So we're basically spending our time and energy in extracted form. If you were to extract that, it would be money, and then we're just consuming it. So we are literally just working to spend, and it's a very bad system, I suppose, for the lower class, the middle class, but it benefits the people at the top because those are the ones that are holding the assets and the investments and things that we are spending into. So I really like this movie because it paints this picture where, you're using your time as currency and you go to buy a coffee and they say that will be 4 minutes instead of $4. And the person's like, what do you mean it was 3 minutes yesterday? Like I could trade 3 minutes of my time, which is my currency, to get a coffee and it's now 4 minutes. Why? And they're like, oh, that's just how it is. Like that's just how the system works. And so it's interesting because it's such like a suppression where it's like anyone that's trying to save and store for the future and start to advance and get out of what the movie calls the ghetto is stuck there. So they're deliberately forcing people stuck in, I guess you could almost call it poverty in this movie where people are literally dying out on the streets because they're running out of time. It's just a really interesting concept, man. Like imagine you really did just have your time on your wrist and that was all you had to pay for. Like what are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up 4 minutes of your life just for a coffee? I don't know, but that's sort of how our life is measured right now with our money. Like there's people that now that are in debt, they technically owe the future. Like they owe the future. They've brought the future forward to enjoy the now, but it's like if you're never going to pay that back, it's like your future will never then be better because you're going to constantly be under the suppression of owing money, owing debt that wasn't meant to be yours yet. So it's an interesting thought because you're really bringing the future to the present, spending it now, and then you'll have to pay for it later. But I love this because they had like, you could get loans for times in the movie where it's like, what's the interest rate? And it's like 30%. And it's like, am I willing to borrow on and then continue to work more and more trying to pay off this loan just to live slightly longer? And then it's like, you see everyone sort of calculating in their head, is it even worth it? And yeah, and then there's another part where it's like, the guy goes to get paid and like they pay in hours or whatever to give these people more time to live. And they've worked a full day at the factory. And the guy's like, yo, this isn't all my money. Like, where's the rest of it? And he's like, oh, the quota has been changed. So, like, the requirement for how much work to be done has been suddenly changed. And so, therefore, we need you to work longer if you want that proper pay slip. And, like, even that was interesting. So, you've got inflation in the movie, quotas constantly changing. So, unpredictable things that, you didn't see coming or that change your budgeting, that change your plan for the future, I guess, because suddenly you have to do more and more work. So you're not just doing more and more work because they're inflating in this one, the time currency, so therefore it's worth less, but they're also changing the quota, and then you've also got loans to borrow more time, and then there's this huge wealth gap. So some people have literally thousands of years to live, so they're basically immortal. And then you've got this bottom class that are just dying on the ground every day, where they're literally running out of time. No one's giving them a job enough to sustain their living, and their life is just getting worse and worse and worse. So you literally see his mum go to pay for a bus ride, and she only has an hour and a half left to live, and that's her currency, and that's also, she'll die at the end of it, she'll time out. And the bus driver goes, oh, that'll be 2 hours. And she's like, I've only got an hour and a half. And he's like, well, it's changed, it's now 2, like it's been inflated, it's now 2 hours. And she's like, I can't afford it. And he's like, well, you better start running. So that was a very scary thought, because you know, she doesn't have, like, imagine when we continue to get into the world where we literally can't afford groceries, and the only way they can disguise that is to make the food worse and worse quality, because then it can actually be affordable. And monetary inflation, it's eroding the value of your wages, requiring you more work to maintain the same standard of living. So your living's not getting any better by the more hours you do at your job. And since the 1971, when they officially went off the gold standard, the disconnect between worker productivity and wage growth has widened dramatically and ushering in declining living conditions for many. So it's actually making people's life worse as they inflate the money supply. So despite advances in productivity, like think now, we literally have AI, technology, automatic production systems. We should be the best at doing everything. We've advanced so much in society, but instead life is getting worse and it makes no sense. Like we should have absolute abundance, but instead it's like we're living in scarcity, where the middle class is now becoming the lower class is becoming even lower, and then the elites and the rich class is not dropping down with everyone else, is just getting further and further away. And I think that's all deliberate. And I think the inflationary system is deliberate. The monetary inflation system is deliberate. It keeps people working longer and longer hours, being forced to work in their job just to get a pay slip that goes less, doesn't go as far as it did yesterday. So I like that saying that the money you're holding right now is worth more than it will ever be. So that idea of no wonder people want to spend it today, because it goes further than it ever will today than it will in the future. And so I think there's also, the movie really explores this theme of the illusion of scarcity amidst abundance. So there actually is a world where we have abundance, where we should have abundance, which is what we should be striving for, where there's no homelessness, where there's no absolute poverty, there's no kids that are dying on the street from starvation. There's those extremes, but then there's also, there should not be this middle class that was once living quite comfortably is now on the streets as well. Like I'm seeing families across the US, they can't afford their mortgage anymore. They can't afford their home, so they have to sell up. Then they realize they can't afford rent because that's gone up too, because houses have gone up, and it's all just this system where everything, all prices go up. And if they can't earn enough to sustain it, they will literally end up on the streets with kids. So it's even affecting the middle class, you would say. So that shouldn't be a thing, homelessness and poverty and all that, and the declining outcomes of the middle class. This makes no sense. Why is this happening? Like, shouldn't there be an absolute surplus, an absolute abundance? Like, we have all these things. We literally have skyscrapers, we literally have cars, planes, this absolute advanced society, and we are almost struggling more than we used to when we were just like peasants and farmers, which makes no sense. How have we gone backwards with how much we're advancing in society? So I think there is enough resource. So in the movie, it's time, but for us, it's money, which I guess is just time. But there is enough money in our system for everyone to live fair. There is enough abundance for us to all have food on the plate and a house over our roof, everyone in the world. It is not a matter of, hey, there's too many people in this world, we need to start depopulating. That whole idea is just another lie to feed society, to say that we are the problem. In reality, there is an absolute abundance of everything for us to take and use and live, and all live a fair life. So it's similar in the movie. There's enough years and time to be distributed to everyone, because remember, it's their currency, that not everyone's going to live immortal, but that's not the point. The movie discovers that no one actually wants to live forever. Like, that's the reason that life is special, because there is a scarcity of time. And so it says everyone has the ability to live a long and fair life. So that might look like in the movie, maybe it's 50 years or 100 years instead of 10 years. Like, these people might only be living till they're 35 or 45, some of them even dying 25, 26, because they literally can't afford life. And so that so relates to now. That just so relates to what we're going through, where it's like a system that's keeping you suppressed. You can't actually progress in life, and your living standard to keep it the same, you have to work more. But if you want to increase it, you just have to constantly increase your hours, constantly increase your output, your profitability. And it wasn't always like that. So yeah, I think we should be in an absolute abundance. I think this is an absolute design. And I like what in the movie it says, this is what all the rich people believe, where it's actually proven that no, it doesn't have to be like this. It says, for the rich to thrive indefinitely, the poor must always struggle. It's like, how true is that today? Like, all the rich just think, in order us to thrive and continue our life, the bottom of the barrel, even the middle class now, has to continue to struggle. That's what they believe. Whereas in reality, no, if we all lived a fair and equal life, there would still be those that progress further in society because they're talented and gifted and they know how to get the most out of their time. But for those that are actually still putting in the hours, putting in the work, but not getting rewarded now, would be rewarded where they can actually live a basic and healthy life. Maybe it increases their diet, increases the quality of their diet, increases their standard living. Like, maybe they actually get a house over their roof, and maybe they can have kids. Maybe they're not going to divorce. Maybe they're actually going to be what people would say is the American dream. But right now, that's just not reality. So I love it, this movie, because it's just, you see what happened since 1971, the obesity, the disease, the stress, the suicide, the family breakdown, and the declining birth rates have all soared since we went off the gold standard. So since we went off sound money, gold, crap has hit the fan. So ever since they could print the dollar and make all of our savings worth less, but their assets worth more, crap has hit the fan. So that's what's happening. That's what we can see with the inequality is at an all-time high. And that is a product of a fiat system, an inflationary system where they can print the dollar. They can essentially print time. This is the closest we have to time traveling. And whereas Bitcoin is like an option to opt out of the system, and it's a new framework for value. So it's completely repricing everything in the world with something that's scarce. So it has a fixed supply, unlike these fiat currencies, of which the governments can print limitless quantities and they devalue everyone's work, whereas Bitcoin is capped at 21 million coins. So it's a measurement stick that doesn't change. Time and energy preservation. So when you convert work, time and energy into Bitcoin, it retains its purchasing power, but also has the ability to increase purchasing power because others are still in the old system, and therefore your purchasing power is going further. Unlike fiat money that erodes over time. So fiat currencies are worth less and less. The US dollar has lost 99% of its value since 1913, and that's meant to be a winner, so it's not doing very good. Now, Bitcoin is neutral, decentralized, and borderless. So Bitcoin does not rely on any government, cooperation, or central authority. It is open to all, enforceable by code, and divisible enough to serve the globe. So it doesn't have a CEO, it doesn't have a centralized country, doesn't have a government or someone that overlooks every transaction, every action of Bitcoin. Rather, it is basically the people's money is decentralized and borderless. So empowering the many. So while the wealthy may adopt and benefit from Bitcoin, so your enemies can still benefit from Bitcoin, anyone can participate, and it levels the playing field by providing the same rules for everyone. Everyone has the exact same rules when they enter in Bitcoin. Doesn't matter how much money you have, how much money you think you can chuck around to try and push your weight. Everyone has the same rules. And so, yeah, it will benefit your enemies, but that's the point. It's a neutral currency. It doesn't matter what country takes it on, even if it's China, and let's say they're an enemy to the US. The US has nothing they can do to stop China from adopting Bitcoin, but China has nothing they can do to stop US from adopting Bitcoin. So it's neutral. That's what you need. You can't have something that just benefits one country, one system. Now, it's also the superior store of value. So historically, Bitcoin's scarcity and decentralized nature has made it a better store of value over time, turning savers into winners and undermining the incentive for endless labor for depreciating currency. So it basically says, stop the madness, stop trying to work 14 hours a day every day. Just work, your 6 to 8 hours every day, trade it into Bitcoin, and what you'll learn is you'll have an absolute abundance. So it's a good store of value, and everything around you that's priced in fiat will just get cheaper and cheaper for you, and it will increase your purchasing power. So I like final thoughts is that in time, real abundance already exists, but it's artificially withheld, very similar to now, where technology for prosperity has outpaced our economic systems. So everyone should have abundance. So Bitcoin offers not just a different asset, but a fundamentally different system, a different protocol where your time can be stored, not siphoned away, and where the rules are the same for everyone. So guys, watch the movie In Time. You'll really like it if you're a Bitcoiner. And if you're not a Bitcoiner, maybe it'll convince you to be a Bitcoiner, because it's basically saying opt out of that system that it's trying to expose in this movie. Thanks guys for watching. Sorry for a bit of a long one, but yeah, go check out that movie. Cheers.